Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game review. Brentford 1, Everton 1 on Saturday afternoon at the Brentford Community Stadium or the GTEC Community Stadium, whatever it is called. Everton taking another point after obviously a disappointing start to the Premier League season, getting our first points last week against Nottingham Forest and not being able to hold on to get 3 on Saturday after conceding late on in this game. As I said in the instant match reaction, that wasn't very instant yesterday. I was disappointed with this result. I think when you have, been ahead for so long in a game of football and you've got 5 more minutes to hold on and you concede so late on in the game, it is disappointing. Ultimately, listen, I understand we rode our luck a little bit. I understand Brentford did the post a number of times. I understand Brentford did the bar a couple of times. I understand that, from the outside looking in, you'd probably say that a point was a fair result. And some people would maybe even argue that Brentford deserved a little bit more out of the game. But, it often happens when you will have a game of football where you will have two teams, one of which is, quite good and, creating chances, creating opportunities, having shots at goal, hitting the post or the bar or whatever, but they just can't break that deadlock. And one of who isn't particularly great and defending for 90 minutes and manages to get a lucky break, gets a goal and ends up winning the game. And I was sitting there in the stadium, or standing there in the stadium, should I say, thinking on Saturday afternoon, is this going to be our day? Is this going to be, a game where we can leave the stadium and go, we were a little bit lucky there, we rode our luck a little bit, they had, much clearer chances than what we did, but we got the goal on the break, we won the game, thankfully, and we move on. But it just never seems to work like that for Everton, does it? It never seems to work like that, and you add that to the fact that obviously we haven't managed to get a Premier League win so far this season, and we're 4 games into the season. We obviously play Leeds tomorrow night. The game preview for that, by the way, will be late tonight. We're going to do a late live stream for the game preview to our Premier League fixture against Leeds United. And then our next home game is against Liverpool, the Merseyside derby on Saturday. So, as I said, when you are 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go and you've rode your luck a little bit, I was sort of sitting there thinking, okay, we can hold on and get 3 points here. This could be absolutely massive. To concede so late on, regardless of whether or not Brentford had better chances earlier on in the game, to concede so late on was very, very disappointing for me. Very, very disappointing. And I understand you can, leave the ground and a couple of days later you can look at it with a bit of, logic and a little bit of hindsight and look and think, what, it's not actually a bad point. It's not the worst point in the world going away to Brentford. Obviously, they've done the double against us last season in their first season back in the Premier League. They've got, a whole load of good quality footballers, players that are capable of creating chances, players that are capable of scoring goals. We've seen that a couple of weeks ago when they played Manchester United. But it is getting to the point now where you're sort of looking, thinking, well, where's the 3 points going to come from? We've got a difficult game tomorrow against a team in Leeds United who've got a lot of confidence at the moment, under their new manager, under their new regime. I watched them a couple of weeks ago against Chelsea, and this Leeds United team doesn't stop. It constantly runs from minute 1 to minute 90. The pressure that they put on opposition teams is really, really, really remarkable, and I'd be lying if I was to say I wasn't a little bit worried going into tomorrow's game as to how Everton are going to be able to deal with that pressure, because I've seen Everton come up against teams before a number of times over the years where, teams that press us and press us high, and you might go into the game thinking we can beat these. These aren't particularly very good, but, they work hard, they battle, they press, as I said, they're constantly putting pressure on you, and we never, ever, ever seem to be able to cope with it. I remember Wolves done it to us a couple of years ago. We were all sitting there saying, we should win this game. This isn't, this shouldn't be particularly difficult, and because they pressed high up the pitch and put a lot of pressure on our players, we just completely crumbled. So, there is that. In the back of my mind ahead of tomorrow's game, but this one was one of the weekend in which Everton really could have won, and even taking away all of the chances that Brentford had and the opportunities that Brentford missed and hit the post with, etc., etc. It was still a game that Everton, for me, should have been able to hold on to, and I do think it comes down to game management. Now, look, as I said in the instant match reaction yesterday, Frank Lampard's hands are very, very much tied behind his back. At the moment, we've got 4 days to go until the end of the transfer window. The transfer window closes on Thursday. You know, who Everton will sign before Thursday is completely up in the air at the moment. Obviously, there's still rumours surrounding Idrissa Gana Gueye, rumours that I'm quite frankly getting bored with at the moment. I'm sick of seeing, you know, a reporter saying Idrissa Gana Gueye is 1 step away from joining Everton. Now there's an agreement in place with PSG. I read that 5-6 weeks ago and he's still not an Everton player. So I've just seen a tweet there saying there's an agreement in place between PSG for Ghana. I don't believe any of it. I really, really don't, until he stood there with an Everton shirt at Finch Farm. I don't believe any of it, because we were told there was a full agreement in place 4 weeks ago and he's still not here. We're hearing a little bit about kudos, obviously, from Ajax, and the fact that although the player seems keen on the move and has agreed personal terms, Ajax don't want to let him go because of the deal that will see Anthony move to Manchester United. Obviously, Dan James's name has come up over the last couple of hours or so, which for me is a little bit mad, because Dan James is exactly the type of player that Everton have had too many times over the years, and exactly the type of player that we've all sat here and said isn't good enough and we need better. And by that, what I mean is somebody that will come in, will cost us a considerable amount of money in transfer fee, will want to be paid a considerable amount of money in wages, and is quick, is fast, is pacey, but has got absolutely nothing else. The kid's got no end product. The kid's got no ability to, you know, create opportunities or cross the ball or really have any real impact on a game. He's just fast. And for me, that simply isn't good enough for Everton. So I understand that, you know, Frank Lampard's hands are tied behind his back a little bit. I understand we had another injury on Saturday in Mason Holgate having to go off with a problem with his knee. Obviously, Vitaly Mikalenko had to go off with cramp as well. So I get it. I completely get that. You know, at the moment, Frank's got a lot going on that, you know, he's got absolutely no control over. And this is why I think a lot of the talk about Frank Lampard leaving the football club or being sacked or not being good enough is a little bit premature at the moment. However, I do think he could have managed that game a little bit better. I really, really do. I think Everton's plan was obvious in that second half, and that was that we were going to come out in that second half and we were going to sit 11 men behind the ball and try and defend for 45 minutes. And, you know, that's okay when you've got world-class players that are, you know, there to be able to do that. And at times last season we were able to do that successfully. But for me, that sends a message out to every one of those Brentford players and Thomas Frank as the Brentford manager in the second half that Everton aren't interested in, you know, going and getting a second goal here. Everton aren't interested in having any part to play in this game of football other than sitting back and defending. You know, again, doing that with 10, 15, 20 minutes to go at the end of the game, if you're winning, is absolutely fine. I've got no issue with it. Doing it for 45 minutes for me just isn't, just wasn't the right way to go about it. And listen, I'm not a Premier League manager. I've not won Champions Leagues and Premier League titles and FA Cups like Frank Lampard has. But I just think, had we have managed that second half a little bit better, had we have gone out there in the opening 15, 20 minutes of the second half and perform like we did in the first half, in the sense of getting at them and running at them and creating, you know, space for ourselves, because I actually think the first half we were very good. I think it was one of our best first half performances in a while. We were getting forward, we were creating chances, we were putting them under pressure, we were worrying them. And the moment that you come out and you allow Brentford 2 minutes into the second half to think, right, these have completely changed the way they're playing here, these are just going to sit back, we were just inviting them on. And, you know, law of averages tells you that they'll then continue to, you know, get at us and create opportunities, and one of them eventually will go in, and that's exactly what happened. Whereas I think, had we have continued that pressure and continued that, you know, that attacking momentum and play, even for just 15, 20 minutes, not only might we have got a second goal, which we very nearly did anyway, if, you know, Tamari Gray doesn't piss about with what was an absolutely fantastic ball by Amadou Onana. We had another chance where Amadou Onana made an unbelievable challenge, and then Dwight McNeil played Tamari Gray in really well. And again, Tamari Gray, firstly, he doesn't want to shoot with his left, then he doesn't want to shoot with his right. But I think had we have, as I said, attacked the game a little bit more for at least 10, 15 minutes in that second half, I think not only will we maybe have gotten another goal and completely killed the game off, but also it would have been, Brentford would have been thinking, oh, these are still going at it here. These are still well wanting to sort of extend their lead. They're still wanting to, put another goal or two past us. And then when you sit back for the final 10, 15 minutes, they haven't really got the confidence that they've been able to muster over the last half an hour, because they're thinking, oh shit, these are just going to sit back now. We've only got 10 minutes to go and get a winner. So they're panicking. Whereas when you give a team 45 minutes of knowledge of these aren't really in it now, these are just going to sit back. It's just too easy for me. And as I said, I just think the tactic and the management of the game maybe could have been a little bit different. I do, because I just think that was a game that was there to be won. As I said, listen, even in that first half when we were, performing well going forward, and when we were, creating chances and creating space for each other, for ourselves, we still were allowing them far too much time to create opportunities, and we were still gifting them chances. They hit the post 2 or 3 times in front of us. In that first half, and as I said on the instant match reaction, I think defensively we were poor on Saturday. I really, really do. I think defensively we could have been so much better. Going forward, I had no big problem with it, and the midfield, I thought Amadou Onana and Alex Iwobi performed really, really well as well. But defensively, I thought we could have been so much better. So, okay, maybe Frank was looking at it thinking, well, we've been a little bit ropey defensively, so we'll just sit back now for 45 minutes. But it very, very, very rarely works unless you've got genuine world-class, sort of defenders and centre-backs, and we haven't got that. For me, we haven't got that. And although we've got good centre-backs, and we've certainly got, a better defence now than what we had last season, we haven't got, the level in which is needed to sit back in a Premier League game of 40 for 45 minutes and not concede. And we showed that. We showed that, and it's so frustrating, because we're all coming at this from a standpoint of where we were last season. It's not like we finished 8th last season and we're just sitting here saying, oh, we've had a little bit of a ropey start, we've had a couple of injuries, we've had a couple of, misfortunate goals conceded, we'll be okay. Every time we drop points now, every time we lose a game of football, every time we concede a goal, every time we, as I said, lose a lead, we're all sitting here absolutely petrified. The anxiety is through the roof, the nerves are through the roof, the worry, the upset is through the roof, because we all know where we've just been last season. And when you just survive relegation on the penultimate day of the season, and then you go into the following season and you're 4 games into your Premier League season and you've not won a game, and bearing in mind the teams have played, Chelsea, okay, good side, top quality players. I had no big issue with the Chelsea game, to be honest. We lost it on a penalty. It was one of them. Villa, who are absolutely awful, by the way, and how Steven Gerrard is still in a job is absolutely beyond me. Villa are a woeful football team, so losing that game for me was not acceptable, because they aren't very good whatsoever. I don't think they've won a game of football since about 1942, other than the game against Everton. Nottingham Forest aren't particularly great, and again, didn't offer anything last week other than the goal we gifted them. We only managed to get a point out of that one. And Brentford, although offered, a little bit more, and although had chances, and although would have certainly felt unlucky had they have not taken anything from that game, we were still 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go, and we threw the lead. So, as I said, it's not a usual situation where you're sitting here going, oh, it's not really been a great start, but it's all right. We're only early on in the season. I think a lot of Blues are sitting here now thinking this is worrying, because you're looking at where we've just come from, and every game now for me that we aren't winning, you're looking at as drop points. You're looking at as, oh my God, will we at the end of the season come to think, how did we lose to Villa away? If only we'd beaten Villa away, you were awful at the time, or how didn't we beat Forest at home, or how didn't we hold on against Brentford? So that, again, for me, adds to the frustration of a game of football like this, is that, we're not really in that position where we can sit here confidently and say, oh, we'll be all right, we'll get better. Obviously we'll win a game of football this season, of course we will. But I look at it now and think, where's that next win coming from? Do I think it'll be tomorrow? I hope so. Will they surprise everybody on Saturday against Liverpool? Again, I hope so. But because of the season we've just had, you are sort of looking at these types of results and these types of performances in terms of dropping points late on and thinking, we can't really afford to be doing that, even though we are only a couple of weeks into the season. And maybe that is unnecessary stress, maybe that is unnecessary anxiety, but I don't think any Blue can turn around to another and say, you're worrying unnecessarily, because the reality is, as I said, after what we've just been through last season, when you're dropping points in games of football, you should be picking up points in. It is a little bit worrying. And as I said, that Forest for me were absolutely woeful last week, and we should have been able to beat them. Villa are dreadful, managed by a dreadful manager and a dreadful football team, and we should have beaten them. And although Brentford were better, as I said, 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go, you would expect most teams to be able to see that out, and it is just a little bit worrying at the moment for me. But look, as I said, I suppose all things considered, taking away that bit of stress and upset, it wasn't the worst point. It wasn't the worst point, all things considered. I thought the first half we were very, very, very good. Obviously, Frank Lampard going with the same back line as what we would have all expected. Jordan Pickford back in goal, of course, after a little bit of a break midweek during the cup fixtures. Vitaly Mykolenko taking his place back at left back. He got a little bit of a break during the fixtures as well. Connor Cody, James Tarkowski and Mason Holgate making up the back three, with Nathan Patterson as the right wing back. Nathan Patterson, who may have my favourite Everton song at this moment. I can't get it out of my head. I really, really, really can't get it out of my head. In fact, I'm already looking forward to being on that coach on the way to Leeds tomorrow to be able to sing it again. I've not stopped singing it all day. I've been talking to my mates all day, and half of them can't stop singing it as well. A couple of them aren't even Evertonians, but they can't stop singing it because it's so catchy. Massive, massive, massive shout out to Barry Williams. He probably won't be watching this. Barry, we spent a lot of time with Barry over in America. Absolutely sound fella. Massive shout out to him. He deserves a statue for that tune because it's absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, I digress. Obviously, into the midfield, Amadou Onana making his first Premier League start of his career next to Alex Iwobi. And then that front three, the dreaded front three of Anthony Gordon, Dwight McNeil and Damari Gray, who actually were better on Saturday than certainly what they had been when they previously played together. But it wasn't really hard to be much worse. Again, no massive surprise that Solomon Rondon didn't start this game, given he played all of the game the other day against Fleetwood Town. And yeah, as I said, I actually think in that first half we were much better than what we've been recently. We weren't playing like the away team. We were playing like a home side, if you like. The atmosphere in the away end was absolutely unbelievable. I've actually seen a couple of Brentford fans on social media talking about the atmosphere, and I think there was a presenter on TalkSport who was talking really positively about it as well. But the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. I mean, I've been to a lot of games of football that involved Everton, and obviously, nothing can compare to that game against Crystal Palace last season, but that atmosphere on Saturday was certainly up there with the best I've witnessed as an Evertonian. It was absolutely electric, and I think you could feel that atmosphere, and the players could clearly feel that as well, because, as I said, it was one of the best first half performances that I've seen in a long time for Everton. It really, really was. The midfield were controlling the ball when they needed to. I thought Amadou Onana was absolutely excellent. Absolutely excellent. Now, look, would I have liked them to stay on the pitch a little bit longer? Yes. I don't necessarily think his substitution and bringing Tom Davies on to replace him had any sort of effect on the game or the result. It wasn't like a case of, oh my God, we massively missed that physicality and pace in the midfield and that's why we didn't win the game. I just think his presence being in there and his ability to, as I said, throw a tackle in, and he played a couple of really, really nice passes. I just think had he have stayed on the pitch, we maybe would have been able to keep that momentum a little bit more, rather than Tom, who done well and didn't do anything wrong, but he's not really setting the momentum. I don't really think any Brentford player was looking at Tom Davies and thinking, oh, I'm a little bit worried about him here. I think they were looking at Amadou Onana thinking, I'm worried about him here. This lad's 6'5", he can pass a ball, he's big, he's physical, he can throw a tackle in. It was a problem for them. Obviously, again, you can't really criticise Frank Lampard for taking Amadou Onana off. I'm led to believe that Amadou Onana went to Frank Lampard at half-time and said he doesn't think he's going to be able to complete the entire 90. So, listen, when those conversations are being had, you can't really blame the manager for taking him off, because ultimately, if he's not fit enough to play that full 90, then he's not fit enough. But I thought he was absolutely excellent. Absolutely excellent. Seems to have settled in quickly, and I don't want to jinx it because it was, one good game, and he's obviously only just, he's obviously only just gotten into the team and into the club. But I thought he was absolutely excellent. I thought Alex Iwobi was really, really solid next to him, and I thought the front three were putting themselves about a little bit. Dwight McNeil was quiet, certainly more quiet than Anthony Gordon and Damari Gray. But as I said, I think they were causing problems. They were getting at Brentford. They were running down the lines. They were chasing balls. They were, putting pressure on them. And, the midfield were able to control the game in that sense. And as I said, I thought Everton looked really good for at least 15-20 minutes of that first half. We got the goal. Obviously, again, really, really, really good ball up by Connor Cody. Route one, as you say. But I honestly don't mind. I don't care. As long as a goal goes in, and it's an Everton goal, as long as Everton are scoring, I don't care if it's tiki-taka football and we've played 812 passes. I don't care if it's come off somebody's arse off a corner, or I don't care if it's route one from Connor Cody or Jordan Pickford or James Tarkowski or anybody else. I'm not arsed. As long as Everton Football Club score goals, I don't care how they score them. I don't care in what way they score them. I really, really don't care. And again, it was route one by Connor Cody, a nice chipped ball up, obviously over everybody. Anthony Gordon made a really, really good run in behind, managed to, get in behind the keeper and put it into the back of the net. And as I said, I've got no problem with that. I've really, really, really got no problem with that. Our last two Premier League goals have come from massive route one balls into, up the field, into one of our front three who have ran in behind the defence. And there is a lot of Premier League defenders this season, in this league, that will give you space in behind. And if you're the likes of Anthony Gordon or Damari Gray or Dwight McNeil or Neil Maupay or whoever it may be, and you can see that the defenders are giving you space in behind, then what's wrong with having a little bit of a conversation with your centre-half or your goalkeeper and saying, listen, next time you get that ball, lump that forward, because I'm going to come off the wing, I'm going to cut in behind that centre-back, and he's going to have no clue I'm there. Because it's worked for 2 weeks on the bounce. Again, it was a really, really smart ball by Connor Cody, good running by Anthony Gordon, gets it on his left foot, and a really, really smart finish. A finish that certainly will do Anthony Gordon the world of good, whether it be for the potential move, which is looking slimmer now, especially according to Frank Lampard, who said he believes Anthony Gordon will be an Everton player for a long, long time, or whether it's for Anthony Gordon's Everton career in terms of his end product, in terms of, that relationship that he savours with the fans. That goal will have done him, a massive amount of good on Saturday. And as I said, I thought it was a really, really smart goal. People can sit there and go, route one, long ball FC. You're talking shite. You're talking absolute shite. If you'd watched that goal in any way, shape or form and weren't anything other than absolutely made up Everton had scored the goal, then I honestly don't know what to say to you, because I don't care how we score goals as long as we score goals. And our last two Premier League goals have come from that. So I'm not saying that should be our only tactic. I'm not saying, revert to Sam Allardyce type of football where your only tactic is to lash the ball up and, that's the only plan you've got, because that's so easy to defend against. And that's why Sam Allardyce currently hasn't got a job. And that's why Sam Allardyce in the modern game doesn't work, because that route one, if that's your only plan, then, it's comfortable to defend against. But there's absolutely not a problem with doing it if you can see that the defenders are leaving space in behind. One thing I do think about the first half, for as positive as we looked, and for as much as we, were getting forward and we were putting pressure on them, and we were ultimately, I'd say, consoling the game at that point. We were certainly the better. I didn't think there was a Brentford fan in the stadium, to be honest with you, until the second half. There wasn't a word out of any of them. But for as much as we were, as I said, consoling the game and getting forward and looking impressive, I did think defensively we looked a little bit shaky throughout the whole of the game, especially in that first half. And I think that was a little bit, I suppose, of the, the negative, if you'd like, of that first half was, I think we give Brentford a couple of chances and a couple of situations where they'd have believed we can get back in this. It wasn't like we absolutely wiped the floor with them. It wasn't like we were winning. It wasn't like what they did to Manchester United a couple of weeks ago where they were 4-0 up in 35 minutes and it was basically like, yeah, this game's over. It wasn't like that at all. I think we were getting forward. We were impressive. We were putting them under pressure. We were giving them something to worry about. But they were also giving us something to worry about because defensively we couldn't cope with them. Ivan Toney, Rico Henry and Buemo, I think they caused a couple of problems, especially sort of on that counter-attack. And there were a couple of times where both fullbacks, for me, should have done a little bit better. And as I said, although I absolutely love Nathan Patterson, and I think Nathan Patterson over the last 4 Premier League games, other than Alex Iwobi, has been our standout player. I think if it wasn't for Alex Iwobi being so good, Nathan Patterson would have won man of the match on a number of those occasions. There was a couple of situations on Saturday where he ducked under the ball or where he let it go over him too easily, and you're just sort of sitting there thinking you can't do that in the Premier League. You can't duck under the ball, you can't let the ball go over you can't let it bounce, you can't do that in the Premier League. And look, again, maybe being a little bit harsh on Nathan there, because there was, I think I read a stat yesterday afternoon after I'd done the instant match reaction that Nathan Patterson on Saturday managed to he was 3-on-1 twice on 2 occasions, so it was him defending on his own against 3 attackers on 2 separate occasions, and he managed to completely nullify the threat and get the ball out. And I actually remember one of them because it was right in front of us. He was 1-on-1 with an attacker. Another attacker was on the overlap on his left hand side. He put a tackle in on the lad who had the ball. The ball then luckily bounced to the fella who was on the overlap, and then he ran straight over and tackled him and got the ball out and just completely killed the situation. As I said, he did that on a couple of occasions, and that deserves a massive amount of credit, because again, that's not easy to defend 3-on-1 in the Premier League, especially against 3 good potent attacking players who can create chances and score goals. Isn't easy, but I do think that both fullbacks at times could have been a little bit better defensively, could have been a little bit better, not letting the cross come in, not allowing Brentford to so comfortably get in at our defence. Again, same with the 3 centre-halves. Ivan Toney was left a couple of times with a free header. I think one of them he hit the post with, one of them he headed over. So there was always that threat from a Brentford point of view, and they knew that, and obviously, we knew that, and there was always that possibility of, these could get at us here. Ultimately, these have got a sort of, as I said, a plan to, be able to break us down. And it wasn't like we were just completely wiping the floor with them and they had nothing. They were knocking on the door a couple of times, and as I said, there was a couple of times when we rode our luck a little bit, and not only in that second half when we effectively just sat back and said, yeah, have the ball and do what you want with it, but also in that first half, because they did it the post a couple of times in that first half as well. But we got into half time, and you're sort of sitting there thinking, okay, 1-0 up, rode our luck defensively a little bit, and need to be better and stronger and tighter defensively. I think that's one thing we very certainly weren't. On Saturday was tight defensively. There was far too much room, far too much space, far too much, time for the likes of Ivan Toney to pick his shot or take his shot or win the header instead of any real pressure on him. But we'd gone in 1-0 up, again, good attacking half, and you're thinking, okay, go out there again in the second half now, go and get a second, completely kill this game off, because had we have got a second goal then, it would have completely killed the game off, because the atmosphere in the stadium from a Brentford point of view was flat. From an Everton point of view, it was absolutely amazing. But from a Brentford point of view, it was flat, and as I said, I think that would have just killed it off for them. But we didn't. We come out in the second half, and look, as I said, Frank Lampard at the moment can only manage what he's dealt with, and can only deal with what he's got. And it's not ideal that we are 4 games into a Premier League season and yet another player has had to go off with an injury, and that's exactly what happened. Not so long into the second half, you had Mason Holgate, who was having to go off because he he'd hurt his knee. I think Frank Lampard said his knee had come out or something, and we might be looking at a couple of weeks for Mason Holgate in terms of his injury. It's not ideal. Now, for as much as I don't think Michael Keane did a bad job when he come on, I actually thought he was relatively solid. I thought he looked okay, done the basics well. Again, there was no issue with Michael Keane. It disrupted the sort of it disrupted the flow, I think, because we'd had to take Mason off, who has been, for me, very, very good in recent weeks. I don't think Mason Holgate's put a foot wrong in recent weeks whatsoever. So when you're having to take him out of the side and you're replacing him with somebody that hasn't played alongside Conor Cody and James Tarkowski before, and hasn't played well in a back five many a time, I think it just, again, it gives the opposition team a boost of confidence, because it's somebody else they can get at. We then, obviously, later on in the game, after their goal, we had to take, Vitaly Mykolenko off through cramp, which again is baffling, is absolutely baffling. But as I said at the start of the live stream, and I'll repeat myself because we're talking about the second half, I just think the game management could have been a little bit better by Frank Lampard. Not necessarily the subs, because look, if Amadou Onana said at half time I can't play a full 90 minutes, then you would expect Frank Lampard to take him off to look after him, because in modern day football, you've got to look after the player, and I would have rather Frank Lampard had taken Amadou Onana off than him play an extra 10-15 minutes and pick up a muscle injury and be out for 3 or 4 weeks, or play an extra 10-15 minutes and because he's not at that optimum level, because he's not there fitness wise yet, make a mistake that leads to a goal and then everybody gets on his back. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because listen, I wasn't in the dressing room with Frank Lampard when Amadou Onana said I need to come off. I wasn't there. I wasn't privy to that conversation. None of us were. But when you were watching Amadou Onana, certainly in the stadium, and I know this will have come across for anybody watching on the television or at home or whatever as well, but when you're watching him, he doesn't look like he needs to come off. It wasn't like he's tired. I didn't think so anyway. I didn't think he evidently looked like he was getting tired or he was struggling or he was having an issue. He wasn't as involved in the second half. Same with Alex Iwobi. He wasn't as involved in the second half. But I think that was because of the management of the game from Frank Lampard and the tactic of, sit everyone behind the ball and defend the lead for 45 minutes. But he didn't look like he needed to come off. He didn't look like there was any real problem. Again, that he mightn't have had a problem. He might have just said, listen, I'm not fit enough to play the full 90 here, so I need to come off. But yeah, I just think it sort of changed the game a little bit. Not necessarily because, of Tom Davies coming on and having a bad performance, but more so because they, ultimately Amadou Onana, as I said before, 6'5", was throwing in sliding challenges, was playing some really clever balls into our attackers, for opportunities. And when you take that off, when you take him off, and you replace him with Tom Davies, who's a lad that, everybody in the Premier League will know isn't going to do that. He's a decent player and he's a decent squad player and he'll sit and he'll defend and he'll put his foot in, but he's not going to cause as much of a problem as Onana. I think that again give them a little bit of confidence. But whilst he was on the pitch, again in that second half, I thought he was very, very good. I thought he was very, very, very good. A couple of the passes he played were really, really smart. As I said before, the ball into Demarai Gray was excellent, absolutely excellent. And for me, Demarai Gray being one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I think he should do a little bit better there. If I'm being honest, I do. I think he should do a little bit better there. He had he done another one where he played he made a really, really, really good challenge, which won possession back, and then we ended up getting the ball forward again. As I said, McNeil played it into Demarai Gray that time, and again, Gray couldn't sort his feet out or, his decision making out, whatever decision he was going to make. And I just think he looked really positive, and I think that's one big positive we can take out of that is he will play tomorrow, likely, because we haven't got many other options. He was impactful, and it was, I think, the first look we've had of him in full way. Don't get me wrong, he was good against Fleetwood. He was fouled an awful lot against Fleetwood. I think it was the first look we've had of him where you've gone, okay, I can see exactly what this lad's going to bring, and he looked really, really, really good. But as I said, the management of it for me, sitting everyone behind the ball and just inviting pressure on and giving Brentford that confidence wasn't necessarily the right thing to do for me. I understand substitutions-wise, Frank didn't really have, much choice. He had to bring Onana off, he had to bring Holgate off, and he had to bring Mikalenko off. So there's 3 players, 3 substitutions out of 5 that he had to make. He was forced to make. Not a case of wanted to make, not a case of decided to make. He had to make. We then obviously brought Rondon on as well, which I think was more to sort of just provide a little bit of physicality and hold the ball up when we do get lump it forward to sort of, I suppose nullify their counter-attack. But Rondon done what Rondon does, and that's not very little, really, didn't he? He didn't have a massive impact on the game. He didn't do much when he come on. But like I said, I just think it could have been a little bit different from Frank. I think had we have maybe attack that second half for at least 10-15 minutes and give them something else to worry about, not only might we have gone out and got that second goal, but we certainly would have stopped them from building that confidence up to think, you know what, we can get back in this game, we're going to get after these. The goal did eventually come after, a number of opportunities. It come, I believe, from a corner. It got whipped in, and Vitaly Mikalenko is keeping the lad offside. Now, there is an argument that Vitaly Mikalenko should have been taken off 5 minutes prior to this, because he was very clearly struggling 5 minutes prior to this. He wasn't. He was left on the pitch, and then for the goal, he was completely keeping his man on side. When had he have stepped forward like everybody else, the lad would have been offside, I believe, and obviously it would have been disallowed. He then went down not so long after and was taken off. Maybe that's a little bit, again, where you can criticise the substitutions from Frank Lampard, because had he have made that decision 5 minutes earlier, Van Aegre might have come on, he might have stepped up like everybody else, and we mightn't have been in that position to concede. But we did end up conceding, which was heartbreaking, because we had 5 minutes to hold on. 5 minutes to hold on, see the game out, and pick up what would have been a really, really, really important, massive 3 points. And that, I think, is what makes it so much harder, and is what makes it so much more difficult. When you're 1-0 up for so long in a game, and you've not won a game of football so far this season, and we've come off the back of what we all had to go through last season, and you're sitting there thinking, this could be the time. You've rode your luck a little bit, so you're thinking, is this going to be our day? And then obviously, to concede so late on, it is really, really disappointing. Even if they did have their fair share of chances, even if you are sitting here thinking maybe it's a fair result, it's still so disappointing for me. And we now have to go on to tomorrow night against Leeds and hope that we can turn up and put a performance in there. Again, I'm not really confident we'll go and win. We can win, because Leeds aren't all that. They're a good side, they're in a good bit of form at the moment, but they're not all that. But I'm not too confident that we will win, if I'm being honest with you. And then obviously we've got, the Merseyside derby on Saturday, which is exciting, isn't it? For all of us, it's exciting for all of us. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second if you are new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. Let's get into some of the live comments anyway, before we finish up the stream. Ross Barkley becomes a free agent after leaving Chelsea, says Eugene. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to talk too much on Ross Barkley, because there's absolutely no need to talk too much on him. But what I will say is, I think I said 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe even less than that, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that don't be surprised if Ross Barkley is an Everton player by the end of this transfer window. And I stick by that statement. And that's not me saying I want him back. That's just me saying don't be surprised if he's an Everton player by the end of this transfer window. Will says, I know it's been saying this for a month now, but looks like Garner is close. Honestly, I'm done with the Garner stuff. I'm really, really done with it. I'm not asked about it until he's in Finch Farm with the shirt, because he's been done for 5-6 weeks, and then he's not done, and then he is done, and then he's not done. So I honestly don't care that much about it. In fact, what I'd have done last week is say to PSG, you're all right, don't worry about it, and I'd have gone and got somebody else instead. Because now what we're doing is hoping on the Garner deal being done, and what happens if we get to Thursday and it's not done, and we've not brought in another midfielder? I'd have bounced it last week if it was for me. Matt says, how are we? Can't bring back the JD bag. It's behind me, mate. It's literally behind the green screen. In fact, it's not behind the green screen. It's being moved. Maybe I moved it. I must have moved it. I don't know where it is, but I'll find it. Up the top, he says, Jason, what's happening, Jason? Damien says, how you doing, pal? Let's hope with this shit start we have a good finish. The last couple of seasons we started well, but dropped, so hopefully we can turn it around for a strong finish. Well, we are still only at the start of the season, aren't we? We still are only in August, so we're a long way to go before the finish yet, but I get what you're saying. Hi all, says Philip, what's happening? Damien says James Garner is covered. If we can't get Garner here today, it was possible collapse. Well, exactly. 1 minute it's possibly collapsed, the next minute it's nearly done, and that's been within the last hour, so I don't believe any of it. Thomas Frank did a good thing with Brentford side over the past year, yes. Hi Cam, says Lampard, what's happening? What do you think of the Dan James rumours? I don't want him. All pace, no end product. Hope Neil Mowbray can make a difference in the games to come, and link to Gakpo today, says Damien. Yeah, hopefully Neil Mowbray can, and I'm sure Neil Mowbray will play some part tomorrow. Frank Lampard said he'd be in the squad, didn't say whether or not he will start, but I'm sure he will play some part tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see, even if he doesn't come on and score or start and score, or hopefully we see exactly how he fits into this team of being a natural forward, because we haven't had one for a while. We haven't had one at all this season. I know you can say, oh, well, Rondon, but Rondon's absolutely shite, so I'm not classing it. So yeah, but anyway, look, we drew the game in the end. Not a bad draw, all things considered, but just really, really disappointing. Really, really, really disappointing. For me, when you're 1-0 up with 10 minutes to go and you can't hold on, it's just, especially given the position that we're in, it's just a little bit disappointing. But we move on. We got a point away from home isn't the worst result in any sense of the imagination. We now go on to tomorrow evening against Leeds, and hopefully we can get a little bit more than a point. But we definitely can't lose, because we just need to keep picking up points at the moment. We really, really do. Anyway, big thank you all for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. If you watched in the YouTube comments, massive thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. If you watch live, big thanks for getting involved in the live comments. We'll be back with a late stream later tonight for the game preview to Everton's Premier League fixture against Leeds, so don't forget to look out for that one. But until then, if you have enjoyed this, please do subscribe. If you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed it as well, please do leave a like. That would mean a massive amount to me. Put this one behind us, we move on, and hopefully we can get a bit of a more of a positive result tomorrow. But big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you later.